Możemy chyba oficjalnie zacząć. Dzień dobry, witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie i to nasze małe grono tu zgromadzone i to szersze grono, które będzie oglądało tę debatę online. Więc spotykamy się po to, żeby porozmawiać trochę o temacie islam a chrześcijaństwo w Europie, czy grozi nam wojna światów. I mam to wielką przyjemność, że dzisiaj gościmy pośród nas dwóch ekspertów. Jest z nami pani Sumar Sleem, która urodziła się w Bejrucie, jest konwertytką pochodzącą z szyickiej rodziny. Nawróciła się na katolicyzm, jednocześnie jest absolwentką prawa na Uniwersytecie Libańskim. Uzyskała też dyplom z prawa kanonicznego na Uniwersytecie Las Angeles. I oczywiście też od 2020 roku koordynuje projekty Caritas Archidiecezji Łódzkiej i Stowarzyszenia Dom Wschodni Domus Orientalis na terenie Libanu, a także w Syrii. Jest szefową misji Domu Wschodniego w Libanie i Syrii. Więc cieszę się bardzo, że Sumar jest z nami. Sumar, I welcome you here in Poland and in Krakow, and we are really very happy that we can host you here, and that we can that you will share with us your experience, your testimony, your knowledge about Middle East and relation between Christianity and Islam. So
thank you for hosting.
Jest też z nami pan profesor Marcin Rzepka, slawista i orientalista, który zajmuje się też przede wszystkim sprawami, jak dobrze też rozumiem, Iranu, prawda? Iran jest panu profesorowi takie szczególnie bliski, ale też doktoryzował się w 2008 roku na podstawie pracy językowej, kulturowe aspekty przekładu Biblii na języki irańskie, a habilitację w 2019 roku uzyskał na podstawie rozprawy Apostołowie Nowoczesności, protestantyzm w Iranie w okresie autorytarnej modernizacji. No i w swoich badaniach koncentruje się na problematyce mniejszości religijnych na Bliskim Wschodzie, ze szczególnym uwzględnieniem Iranu, historii protestantyzmu i relacji chrześcijańsko-muzułmańskich. Panie profesorze, witamy serdecznie i cieszę się, że możemy również z pana wiedzy dzisiaj skorzystać.
Dziękuję bardzo za zaproszenie. Dziękuję.
A moją rolą będzie poprowadzić dzisiaj tą rozmowę, tą debatę i spróbujemy zrobić to chyba w taki sposób, że będziemy z takim miłosierdziem dla tłumacza mówić po angielsku, ale powoli, z przerwami, tak żeby ksiądz Przemek, który jest z nami, jest też odpowiedzialny za Dom Wschodni, Domus Orientalis, jest człowiekiem wielu idei, wielu pasji, wielu projektów i dzisiaj zgodził się służyć nam też tłumaczeniem, więc ksiądz Przemek będzie tak tłumaczył nas pomiędzy troszkę. Mam nadzieję, że wszystko dobrze nam się ułoży i że ten czas, 1,5 godziny mniej więcej, będzie dla nas bardzo owocny. Więc myślę, że możemy rozpocząć. We can start now. And my first question is, I address my first question to you, Sumar, because I'm really excited about your story. So if you could tell us in brief your experience with Christianity, because you were Muslim and you converted. So how it happened and what struck you to go this way towards Christianity? So the floor is yours.
Well, first I come from a family where there were already mixed marriages in the family. And I grew up in Beirut, in the southern suburb of Beirut. So my life basically, I grew up in West Beirut, the most predominantly Muslim side during the Civil War. But that didn't stop us from mixing with other communities and to know that our own community in my area was a mixed one. So having Christians around, stories about them, friends of the family was normal. And then I got married to a Christian in 1996. And I had the permission of the bishop to be married in church without having to convert. The papers were arranged by the man at the time and his family. And I remember that I signed a paper asking me to, where I pledged to raise my children in the Catholic teaching. So later on, I spent 3 years, and even before I was always not being able to embrace the God that was presented to me, the God that at some point I was trying to read, I was trying to discover on my own, but I will always embrace that way of thinking of my own parents, where God must be good, God must be merciful, and we were not a practicing family as Muslims. They were not praying or fasting, but we will celebrate all feasts. So my marriage wasn't really a surprise from the religious side, but for me, it was kind of, it was also a cultural clash, because I was not able to embrace the Muslim community with their traditions and their beliefs, but at the same time, I had a hard time to embrace what I saw in the Christians, in the Christian community, as the family and the village and the surrounding, with this traditional way of believing that's, let's say, beginner level. That is just the pictures and some traditions and customs, but not really going deep. So, but there was much of pain in my life, and the marriage was not going well. And at every moment I was shouting, "Where are you? Where are you there? Can you see all this pain and not do anything about it?" And I was not even able to stand Muslim people telling me that my own children will be burned in hell because I chose to marry a Christian. But I also couldn't imagine my children just kneeling in front of statues, just with no explanation, just because we have to. So, and I taught myself how to pray Al-Fatiha and another shorter prayer simply, and to talk to him every night. But I remember at a very particular moment after 3 years of marriage, where I have already theorized about God and about the cross and about Jesus, that the truth must be out there somewhere, but we cannot figure it out. And then, plain and simple, when we will die, maybe God will explain to us. God will offer the answers we need. But at this time, one evangelical preacher was visiting the family to pay condolences, and he said, "No, the cross has a big importance, because God reconciled with you and your sins through his son on the cross. The justice was served." And I was like, "What?" And he asked me if I could read the Gospel of John. And since I already tried to read Quran, and I was searching for answers here and there, I didn't mind to read at the time. And this was the changing point. Because I discovered that the word God is love, like you hear it a lot in Lebanon, and God is good, and God is merciful, and God is so many theories about God, but I could feel that I am loved, and that there was a way out, there was an exit for this problem, for this crisis of why God did you create me? Just to toss me here? Why did you allow all these circumstances to take place in my life? Or why did you allow everything to happen? And then turns out that there is an answer. And the answer is the cross. And it changed from that day. So this is my story of conversion. And I truly believe that it is the story. It's not about embracing a theory or an ideology. It's actually a personal experience that leads to know that he is here.
Do you feel like Do you feel accepted with your faith in the area where you are living as the previous Muslim woman you converted? So how your family, how your friends, how your society, how they accept it? Or maybe do they accept it or not? How do you find this?
Actually, I went under the radar for a few years. But then later on, when I wanted to file for marriage annulment, and in Lebanon, each one of us have on their IDs their religion and their confession stated. So I was in front of this question, my parents at the time, they learned that I was baptized. And they could see I was praying, and they could see that I had my own faith, and they didn't at the time object about it, because for them it was they need to respect others, and because I have my uncle, my aunt, my cousins married to Christians, but they were married like most of them, they were married, had civil marriage, not a Catholic marriage. Some did, yes, but not all of them. So the marriage was not a problem, was not the issue as much as embracing this faith. But they couldn't argue a lot because they were not practicing their faith. So how can they demand from me to something that they were not actually doing? But when the time came to prove on the papers that I'm a Christian, to make this change in legal papers, I think they were worried, because that meant a public confession on public records, and that could mean someone can have a reaction against me, or simply accuse me of blasphemy or anything. So yes, they were scared for some time. But I was able to remember all the time that the person who will deny me in front of the people, I will deny him in front of God. So there was this passage in the Bible where Jesus said that you cannot, I can't translate it because I know it in Arabic. من أنكرني قدام الناس أنكره أنا قدام أبي. Who denies me in front of the people, I will deny him in front of my Father. So it was very important for me that I don't do that. And then later I discovered that I was going to pray in this church that was a Christian Maronite church in my neighborhood, where there is no parish life, but all parishioners will come every Sunday to have their Holy Mass as to remember their village they left. And I never felt threatened. I was not aiming at provoking anyone, but I needed to live according to what I believe. And I think God allowed that by taking also my children with me to church. Everyone was trying to find me like an alibi. But she has to take her daughters. It's about her children. And still, I was not about to make a confrontation or a provocation. But things with time started to align. It was, for me, I believe there is a grace that I am in that neighborhood. I live there. My law practice, being an attorney at law, is there. And I can go in and out every day. And not a single time I was targeted or abused or feeling afraid of being among them. And I believe part of it is because it was not about proving my ideology. It's like who's in the better religion. This competition mode that sometimes people enter into, who's right and who's wrong, whose God is better and whose God is stronger. And it's not about that, because I am asked sometimes, why did you choose to be a Christian? And I learned that I'm not called to enter into this discussion to convince someone about my opinion why I chose Christ. But I can always say that I had a very personal experience with Jesus Christ, with the love, with love. And this is something I cannot deny. I'm not asking you to change, so please don't ask me to change. And it's going so far this way. What I can say that the people who had hard time in accepting me converting to a Christian were Christians, not Muslims, astonishingly in the country. Yes, because in both communities, the Muslim and the Christian, like in general, regardless of the denominations, it's become like a tribal identification. Like, you know, you are a blue blood. Okay. And if you are the lucky one to be born a Muslim, or if you are the lucky one to be born a Christian, it's not about embracing. So many challenges I had to face because, like, how dare the bishop give you the admission in the denomination? And it's like, why? But at the same time, I had life-changing experiences in my neighborhood because of both wars we had in 2006 and lately in 2025. At the beginning, I fell into the same trap as other Christians. You know, when you start saying, oh, I'm lucky, God saved me from these people, now I'm special. And then it's like, no, it's not that. I didn't join the elite club now. And it doesn't make me any better. This is the trap that I fell for. But these two wars helped me realize that God did not choose to save me from them. He chose to save me for a purpose, to be among them. And it makes the difference.
Thank you. I have now the question to Professor Marcin, because the theme of conversion, it's the part of your scientific researches as well. So I'd like to ask you about the realities of Europe. How do you find this perspective? Because we know that there's a lot of Muslims, I suppose, who convert in Christianity, and Christians who convert to Islam. So how it looks like in realities? What can we tell about this process?
Thank you very much. So let me tell you about my position towards Islam. So I represent mostly academic point of view. And so, in fact, I'm working at the Institute of Religious Studies at Jagiellonian University. And the main field of my studies is the Bible translation into Iranian languages. So I spent a lot of time in Iran, so I have this perspective. I mean, I visited Iran many times, and so what is fascinating from my point of view, this is the faith and strength of converts, those who decided to follow Jesus. So it's fascinating, but so like in Lebanon, so in Iran we have also traditional Christians, and so conversion, it is fascinating what you said. I mean that sometimes the converts, especially in the Middle East, so they are not accepted by Christians, but who they are. So this is quite interesting because we have Christians from traditional faiths. In Iran, there are Assyrians and also Armenians, so they are national. They construct, they establish national churches, in fact. And so the conversion is violation of the border between communities, between confessions. So that's why it's quite interesting to talk about conversions not only in reference to Muslim communities, but also Christian communities as well. But the conversion, so it's a complex question. So I met a lot of converts in Iran. So let me tell you the full story. When I visited for the first time, it was in fact Protestant church, very close to the to Tehran University. The street is called Taleroni Street. And so when I first visited this church, it was more than 25 years ago, I found in the small bookstore two Bibles two Bible translations into Polish. So it is my first encounter with converts and Protestant church there. But of course, I have relations with Catholic living there. I mean, in Iran. I met a lot of converts, and so there are different strategies for conversion. So one of them, the conversion is a reaction to the political Islam, in fact. So Islam became political religion. I mean, Islam, especially in Iran, does not meet people's expectations. So what they really want is a love of Christ. So that's why they decide to follow something that is authentic, something that gives them power, something that gives them sense of belonging. So this is Christianity in this context. But so I also met another kind of conversion. So when some years ago, I conducted my studies and also research in some churches in Istanbul. And so that time I met Christians Iranians who embraced Christianity. So they claimed that they are Christian, that they became Christians. So, but some of them became Christians because of the political reasons. So that they wanted to obtain asylum in one of the European countries. So this is another reason. I mean, very pragmatic approach to Christianity. So I want to become Christian because so I may claim that I'm persecuted minority in the country like Iran. So this is another story. But so in fact, in various countries, in various places, in various cities across Europe, we may meet such Christians also. But so another story is, of course, conversion into Islam. So from my point of view, it's fascinating to meet and to talk with women who also in Poland who decided to become Muslims. So it's another phase and it's another stream within Islam. So I'm, in fact, frankly speaking, I'm fascinated by the women's approach to Quran, women's interpretation, and so it's completely different. So again, so we should start talking about Islam, and probably we should address the very simple question. Especially in the context of relationship between Islam and Christianity in Europe, what is Islam? What is Islam? And do we have many forms, many types or streams within Islam? Or rather, we should talk about many Islams in plural. So this is the question, because what was quite interesting from my point of view, it was something that you said, this traditional way of believing. So it is Islam, but traditional way of believing. So we have here in Europe many forms of Islam. So Islam is divided. So sometimes we think that Islam is a unified religion, but we have various streams, Shia, Sunni, and other forms. So sometimes I think that we should distinguish between Islam as a set of beliefs or practices religious practices, of course, and we should talk about Muslim cultures. This is especially important for Muslims who come here to Europe, because to preserve Islam, it's also to preserve their culture identity. So that's why it's very important for them to remain Muslim in this context. Regarding conversions, so we should also, regarding conversion and also migration, so we have to take into account at least two aspects. I mean, during the process of conversion, so religion sometimes became very important factor in strengthening and keeping one's identity. So it's interesting that people who are not very religious in their countries, in countries of their origin, so they become religious when they cross the cultural borders and the state's borders. So this is, yeah. So we come across many Muslims here who were not very religious in their countries. So they became here religious, very religious, I may say radically religious. But another point is that some people during this process of conversion that try to reconstruct in a new culture environment their biography. So that's why they embrace something that that seems to be something that is authentic, something that is that helped them to reconstruct under new circumstances their identity. This is, of course, Christianity. So the conversion is a complex issue. So sometimes I think that the Bible is the best missionary. So sometimes conversion starts with the Bible. So let me finish with this conclusion.
Okay, thank you. So I have now the questions which I think is coming from what you said, and the questions for you both. I mean, I understand that Islam is very divided inside. So, but sometimes we in Europe understand Islam like some kind of threat for our European culture and traditions. So, how do you find this reality of threat of Islam for the Christianity? Should we feel fear that Islam will invite us and will change something very deep in our culture? Is it real that Islam could be so united from inside to influence Europe and to change into the, let's say, Islamic state? How do you find this perspective?
I would like to say something starting from the experience in Lebanon, because Lebanon is a small country. It can be an example for Europe because of the diversity in the country, knowing that the majority of the country was Christian at some point before the Civil War. First, when, let's say, around the independence, this is what the numbers show in the beginning. But later on, it became a little bit different. Throughout history, Islam influenced the Christian communities in many ways, because we need to realize through the history of the church, many people converted without really having proper catechism or formation before their baptism. And they came into Christianity carrying a lot of baggage from their pagan beliefs. So the later on Christians were not the same Christians that were baptized in Jerusalem and the empire in the beginning. And this is partly what happened in Lebanon. The Christians were people who mostly did not have the ability or the chance to get the essence of their Christianity. The Maronite monks did. Many people and saints had this strong rooted belief in their Lord in the beginning, but not everyone. So it's easy if you are not well rooted in your faith to be influenced by the habits and the culture of the other. And let's face it, Islam is not very different than the Jewish belief with the Sharia, the laws, the enforcement. So when you are, as a Christian, you don't have this understanding that God is love, that God has reconciled with you, that God's providence arranged for your salvation. You have salvation, you have the cross, you have the resurrection, and it's you had this Christian teaching to help you understand and live it and experience it. And throughout the ages and history, we've seen that many Christians have this shallow understanding of their faith. So when you are not deeply rooted, you will be influenced by the other culture around you. And we can say that the Muslims in Lebanon are not the same as the Muslims in Iran, are not the same as the Muslims in Turkey. Each one of us comes from a different culture. Same as we cannot say that the Christians in Europe are the same as the Christians in the US or the same as the Christians in Asia. Historically speaking, conversions happened, let's say, in Europe and in the Middle East in the beginning between those who came to Christianity as Syriac, Aramaic, or Jewish people had different culture than those also coming from pagan Rome or from the Greek ancestry. So you cannot expect someone when they convert or when they embrace a new religion that they will simply drop all their heritage and culture, because the cultural heritage is one thing and embracing your faith is another. So you will have to reach a phase where you can fuse them and find your way. And if we go back to the history of the church, well, this is what actually I was taught, and I really find it amazing that the approach of the Roman Empire in Europe for Christianity was different, like the Roman Catholic Latin people was different than the one from the Middle East where you had the Semite roots. It's a different culture, but they all embraced Christianity somehow. In Islam, the problem is when they come to the countries or when they come to areas, for example, in Lebanon, you will have one family who are so open-minded and they will buy a house in a Christian neighborhood. And then suddenly, maybe in a year or two, they will want to, they will become more Muslim-rooted than they were before.
Because of meeting with Christians?
Because you expect them when they come to live with you, you expect them to leave all their culture and tradition and to trash their heritage to embrace yours as a Christian, and not just as a Christian, as a national, as someone from the area. Because even each village in Lebanon has its ways and its traditions and its customs. I can see it, for example, you will rate a Muslim that he's open-minded simply because they eat pork or because they drink. But is it really the criteria? You will start to trash them if they fast on Ramadan. But what if fasting is his way to please the God he knows? So this is what we are facing most of the time with the Muslims being in Christian areas, is that they feel that they are not ready to face some reactions or to understand some traditions. And the only answer they know is go back to the roots. Because where they are present now in a Christian community, the Christian community is not offering them the embracing they need or the understanding they need so they can cope together. Maybe they will not convert. Maybe they are called to be salted, not become the salt. But to become salted, it requires from the Christian next door to be the salt. So.
Thank you. And what is your position?
So when we ask such a question, whether Islam is a threat, so it seems that we think that that something is in the air. So we feel that something is wrong or going wrong. So when we think or when we ask such a question, is Islam a threat for European Christianity or European set of values? So we may ask what kind of Islam is a threat? And we may ask also whether some Muslim communities is under threat. I found out some quite interesting information about prominent Muslim figures in Europe. One of them is, of course, Sadiq Khan, mayor of London. So he born in London, but of course he's from a Muslim family. But so he received also death threats because of his actions, because of his reactions, because of his support for same-sex marriages. So he is threatened, not only because despite the fact that he is a Muslim. So another quite interesting example from my point of view is Shirin Hankan. She established the first women-led mosque in Copenhagen. And she also received some death threats from other Muslims. So this is quite interesting story. What kind of Islam? I don't want to say that so we may divide people according these lines. I mean, we may divide people that there are good Muslims, there are bad Muslims. So we as European, we did it. So 20 years ago, but situation changed. And so probably now across Europe, the dominant feeling is that all Muslims are bad. So probably. So we observe such reactions and also such feelings across Europe in various countries, in Britain or in Spain or even in Poland. But from my point of view, what we can observe in the near future or in longer period here in Europe is a clash between the same, people who belong to the same religious tradition. So this is something that we observe also among Christians. So why? Because Christianity is decreasing in Europe. But so Christianity is decreasing not because people became atheists. So they reject especially traditional and also institutionalized forms of religion, especially Christianity. So we observe this regarding Catholic Church, Lutheran Church, and other churches. It does not mean that in Europe we do not have Christians. So we have now other Christians. It is not about Christianity as Pentecostal Christianity, not established and well-known traditional churches. So among such population, among Christian groups, so we see also divisions. Some divisions are caused by national feelings. Some are called because of this division, not affiliated churches that are mushrooming now in Europe, across Europe. So the same we may say regarding Islam. So Islam is divided, and so of course what we can see, especially in media, they are radical groups. But so radical groups that are very dangerous also for other religious Muslim groups who are not so radical and not so fundamental. So this is especially important when we talk about women and the women's movement, when we talk about feminist approach to Quran and what is called feminist theology. So from my point of view, women also, especially Muslim women, are under threat from both societies. I mean, Islamic societies and also not Islamic societies, but very, narrow-minded. But I know that the question, still we have to answer the question, is Islam a threat? So from my point of view, what we can see in the near future or in longer period, as I told you, so this is the clashes between various groups belonging to the same tradition. So one Muslim scholar once said that it's not about clash of civilization. When we talk about Christians and Islam in Europe, it's not about clash of civilization, but clash of perceptions. And probably it is, this is probably it's important. So probably we should elaborate this point, because this is the clash of perceptions, also clash of perceptions of what is the Quran, what's the word of God. So this is something that we observe right now among Muslims in Europe, especially Europe.
So, in your opinion, we have different perception of the essence of Islam inside of Muslim groups in Europe, right?
Yes, yeah, that's my point.
Okay, and maybe can we develop it a bit, because I feel that there is something similar inside of Christianity, that we have a different perception about how to live the Christian faith. We have this traditional movement, we have some, not only between Christian churches, but even inside of Catholic churches, we have a lot of different perspectives. And I observed that, for example, in France, now, in some part of France, we have a lot of new baptized Christians, for example, new conversions from atheism to Christianity, let's say. So it's a very dynamic process. But if we will follow this path, that it's not the issue of cultural clashes, but because of perspectives, so how it will influence? Can we provide how it will influence the further steps of development of Islam and Christianity in Europe? Have we some idea how it this differences of perspective? What will be the future of the Christianity and Islam because of this common meeting of the two religions and the development of this religion in Europe? Sumar, maybe?
I can say that in Islam, you don't have one institution like the Catholic Church. You have different people who will have different interpretation of the Quran, of the Hadith, and you'll have different fatwas. And there is freedom in Islam, even within the same family, to embrace one path over the other. So you might find two siblings embracing different paths in how to practice their Muslim faith. And that was the case from the beginning. So there was no single institution. Of course, there were movements, bigger schools, imams, and this. I'm not going to discuss them now. But I think what happened in Europe and even in Lebanon and the whole world, that the Christians were used to this solid institution that was their reference. But from, let's say, the 19th, 20th century, this started to change. And the people started to come up with answers and kind of rebel against this institution. And I can say that their approach is similar to the Muslims' approach. I will choose this priest over that bishop. I will choose that minister or that church over mine. And this is exactly what's happening now. Even in Lebanon, you can see, and everywhere. you will see some Christian who has next to zero knowledge in the teaching of the church, and telling you that he disagrees with the Pope because he believes that the Pope needs to decide this, not that. And this goes big part of it because we are in an era where your own self is the reference. People started to lose the compass, where the church was the compass of setting what's right and what's wrong and what's the direction to take. And when this started, I think in the Christian communities, with the people who identify as Christian, because many in Europe and around the world will identify as Christians regardless if they are committed to the church, to one church or not. But they will have their own references and their own line of thinking, and they will not feel free not to commit to the church teaching. And if they don't like the church they're in, if there's a certain matter they disagree with, they will simply leave and go to another church, or just create a new group of believers that will speak to tell them what they would like to hear. And actually what's happening here is pretty much like Islam, each becoming their own mentor, their own reference, their own. We are in a time where people don't believe that they need the others to tell them, you cannot tell me what I can do. You cannot tell me what's right and wrong. You cannot tell me what I should believe. Okay, you're free to believe in God and free not to believe, but you are not free to theorize and teach this way. So basically, this is what's happening in Europe and in Lebanon and many countries. It's very funny when I meet people like Christians telling me, the Pope shouldn't have said that, or the Patriarch is so wrong. Especially we remember during COVID when we had to have the communion by hand, and it was the utmost sin in Lebanon. How dare you? It's like, what? Or when we had this discussion yesterday about married priests in Oriental churches. And people are like, oh my God, hey, learn history. Peter was married. So there is a path and there are choices in the church, but you need to learn the history. You need to learn to listen to someone else before listening to the demons in your head. And we are in an era where we lost the compass. Everyone wants to be the mentor. No one wants to be a disciple.
Yeah, it's I suppose that the problem with Islam is the problem with authority. So this is the same we observe to smaller scale in traditional churches like Catholic Church. But so it's very true when we talk about, for instance, evangelical Christians. So this is growing type of Christianity also in France. So because of the migrants, because of the migrations from African states. So here in Poland, we have also a couple of churches established by Nigerians. So it's fascinating also here in Krakow, in Druga Street, so in Warsaw. So it's fascinating that we observe the changes within Christianity. So, but the point is that in such groups, Pentecostal evangelical Christians, so the authority is dispersed. I mean, this is the completely different kind of Christianity. We may call this network Christianity. So the same situation is in Islam. I mean, this is the problem of dispersed, divided authority. But so the policy of many European countries was to support one body who tends to represent the whole Muslim community in this country. So that's why in the various, not in Poland, so we have a completely different situation here. Why? Because the Muslim community is rather tiny. So we have just 40 probably 40,000, but it's something that it's very hard to confirm, such number of Muslims here in Poland. But so in many countries, like in UK, France, or Germany, the state authorities, they support special Muslim councils. So this is, special body that tends to represent whole Muslims affair in front of state authorities. So this is the practice we observe, in many countries, in Norway also. But so the problem is that such councils are divided. So we observe clashes between various Muslims because, in fact, it's very hard to represent whole Muslims groups. They are divided according to this religious line, Shia, Sunni, and also four law schools within Sunni Islam. And also it's very hard to represent Afghani Muslims, especially now in various countries. So I visited Afghanistan 2 times, and so I saw people, especially young people, they are traumatized, and so this is a trauma that they also bring here in Europe. This is not Islam, this is corrupted Islam, this is corruption of religion, in fact, but it's very hard to represent them, to represent Pakistani and also Lebanese Muslims, so it's hard. But so we observe such tendency to organize one body that may accumulate or gain authority. So we observe also failure of such attempt. And so in many countries and many cities, especially in London, so every mosque has its own authority and try to construct own line of followers or network of followers. So this is the real problem. The real problem that I don't want to say that it's lack of control, but so this is lack of authority. Lack of acceptance of authority among Muslim people. So Muslims may follow they follow fatwa, they accept. Yeah? Yes, exactly. So the better situation is of course in Catholic Church, because Catholic Church standardize the vision and also the authority. So, but from my point of view, it's a real problem. This dispersed authority, the lack of the body who may say that so we should condemn authorities conducted in the name of Allah. So, for instance, so there's this lack of such authority, such body that may condemn such action, violation of human rights and also murders. So this is the real problem.
For me, this is very exciting what you've said because of this different perspective and because of this reality of being so divided inside of Muslim community. Sometimes I know that this is very simple and not true thinking, but way of thinking, but sometimes here in Poland we perceive Islam like the monolith, and that's why it is something like that. We have Islam, monolith Islam culture, in Islam influence, migrants. So it will cause the troubles because of this monolith invasion. So that's why I think the Polish people, but also some groups in Europe, we fear of Islam. But what you said about this diversity and this division inside of Islam, from one side, it's the lack of authority. It's something danger, but from other side, it can help us to understand that Islam is not monolith. So it's not let's say, a huge threat who invade Europe to make something wrong with us and to cause some Islamic state or things like that. This, yeah.
You need to know that it goes vice versa as well. Because in the Muslim communities, they tend to perceive the Christian community, the Christians, to be also a monolith, like you said, that they're Christians. Like they have all the same belief and the same approach. It's very easy for anyone to label someone and put them in one box because it will not require from the person any effort to understand the other. In Lebanon, you have the Shia from the south don't have the same traditions and customs and way of thinking like the Shia from the Bekaa, or like the Shia from Mount Lebanon, or like specifically from the southern suburb of Beirut. They think differently. They have different traditions. They behave differently sometimes. The accent is not the same even when they speak Arabic. But if you talk to someone who's a Muslim, who's been raised in a village and never had to contact a Christian community or had contact with Christians, he will talk about those Christians because for him they are just one.
Okay.
So I think bottom of the problem is not about what is Islam or what is Christianity and the conflict between both and how to cohabitate together. The problem is at the essence, it's very easy to reject the other person as a human and label them under a religion and start to treat them and have our perceptions about them according to the label we just sticked. And this is where I think it's easier for the Christians to start the change, because we cannot keep on expecting from the Muslims to be open-minded and to embrace the others and to have this acceptance when the Christians who's in the core of the faith are called to accept and to embrace and to be loving and to represent Christ. You don't ask them to give Christian fruits, but you expect from the Muslims to give the Christian fruits when they never had the good news. They never received it. So for me, it's like when we are exposing the problem, we are just labeling people by who's Christian and who's Muslim. But sometimes the Muslim is not really a Muslim and the Christian is not really a Christian. Okay. But in the beginning and at the end, they are human and they have so many facets. Mm-hmm. And of course, faith plays a big role in it. But at the same time, that doesn't have to be a scale. This labeling shouldn't be the grading of how human they are, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting point, I think. So in fact, so we asked several questions. One of them was, what is Islam? Another one, what are Christian-Muslim relations in history? So they are different in various countries, in Lebanon, in Iran, in Europe. And another question should be what we think about Islam and what Muslims think about us. So there's another question that leads us to another one. What's the source of knowledge? What's the source? What's the base on which we build the portrait, the image of others, of Islam? So when I visited Iran many times, so I was asked why we Christians want to destroy Iran. So it was in many times, but it was exactly 23, I mean, before the American invasion, and collapse of Saddam's regime. So that time, Iranians felt threat from so-called Christian West. Because from one side, so it was Afghanistan when American troops were deployed, and from the other side it was Iraq that was in the eve of invasion. So that's why they asked me, why you Christians, in fact, why you want to destroy us? So this is something that is, I think that sometimes obstacles are in minds of people. So because Muslims with whom I used to talk, so they used some sources from medieval time, from the Crusades. This is the one instruction of Christians' behaviors, I may say, and another source. This is of course the colonial time, the colonization. So please remember that in the height of colonization, colonial empires, Dutch Empire, British, Russia, and also France. So they colonized the majority of Muslims. They were subject of colonial powers. More Muslims that were at that time governed by Muslim empires. It means Ottoman Empire. So it's interesting, and so this is something that fueled their so-called culture memory. So they think about us as a threat. So even when they come here, as I told you, so I think that some obstacles are in mind. So obstacles and some hindrance and some barriers that are in minds, and they are of course constructed because we refer to some sources. I may ask a question whether in our life we really meet Muslim people. So this is the question to you. Have you ever met a real Muslim? And also, have you ever made a short conversation about his or her faith? So this is very special, and this is very true when we talk about Islam and the feeling of Polish people of threat of Islam. So okay, we may feel threatened, but so it's good to know what we are. By whom we are threatened. So it's good to know something about the Muslims.
So my question is now a kind of request. If you could give some advice, for example, to Polish people or to European even people, how to live with Muslims, how to live with immigrants, how to behave towards them. If you could advise something to those who are afraid of this influence of migrants and they have some idea that the Islamic State will come and became in a reality of Europe. So what is your advice to people, to Christians who are thinking in this way?
It's not easy. There is no magical formula that would apply or advise. But I think what drives the Muslims into thinking this way or to have this Islamophobia in Poland or in Europe comes from the ideology of fear. When you have this fear instilled of what God will do to you, and that there is this formula in Islam that if you apply this Sharia and if you are becoming more and more extreme with God, then maybe He will forgive your sins. So fear and dread is a very powerful weapon against the others. And it's a very good motivation to cause harm to others. But it can be reversed. even now, in the name, we know from the history, as Marcin was saying, that through the colonialism and crusades, religion was used for a very long time. Christianity was used, and by the name of Christianity, countries were invaded, and their richness was used, and their people were abused. But at the same time, we need to remember as well that it happened vice versa at the same time, some before. And long in history, civilizations were fighting among each others because they wanted, under the pretext that they wanted to fight in the name of this God, to triumph over that God. So what can be done in this way, the only answer that we were given as Christians, God loves you. If I have this instilled in me that God loves me and that my existence serves a purpose, it might, and I'm not giving any guarantees, indirectly answer the existential crisis in the other person. Because as much as a European can be an atheist or can be a convert to Islam or can embrace I don't know what, they will dare to do it only because they know in the back of their minds that they have a loving Father, that God is good. If they were presented with a merciless God who will chop them in pieces or who will burn them alive over and over again, they will not even dare to think of embracing another ideology or to think about any answers. They will have their minds paralyzed. And this happens to lots of Muslims around the world when God is presented as the merciless God with whom you cannot know what's the right answer and what's the right formula to please him, to be saved, to be spared from hell. There is no answer for that. It's you don't know how many good deeds will count at the end of the day on that balance in Judgment Day. But if we are to respond to fear with another form of fear, it will only make things worse. As a Christian, I'm called to, with the way I am living, to present this sign of love. When the other person can feel this peace in me, when they can feel this presence, when they can feel in some neighborhoods or some countries some sort of peace, it attracts them, but they don't understand that. And this is how you can present the answer, because indirectly you will be answering the crisis, this never-ending battle in their minds. Who am I? Why am I here? What purpose does my life serve after all? What should I do to please God? It's not a magical answer. It takes a lot of effort, but maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a complex question, of course, but so what you told, I mean, God loves you. It's easy, probably, but so it's very true, I suppose. But so we can see, we may make a research on integration policy. Since 1920s, for instance. Mm-hmm. And so we can see that some efforts to integrate immigrants, it's a failure. Before I joined this fascinating meeting, so I read a book. It is the book which is called Failure of Assimilation of Muslim Communities in Christian Heritage Countries. This is about France. This is about two different groups that emigrated from Senegal. One of them, it was Christian group, and another one, it was Muslim group. And so the conclusion of this study is that the Muslim group was treated with harassment. So they were treated according to this line that so they came as Muslims, so they are fretful people, so they hardly find a job, for instance. So it was, so they in fact started behave according to this line. So they found themselves in a very unpleasant position, but so they exactly behave according to what they thought about themselves. So they behave as oppressive Muslim people. So it's interesting. I mean, this is something that shows us also responsibility of hosting states and hosting communities. So my answer would be very simple. Please find one Muslim and make him or her friend and go for coffee. And so start talking. So probably it's a very small step. But so I suppose that small steps make a real history, big history for big history. So I cannot find an answer because I know that so policymakers, so we saw a lot of projects and attempts to integrate people who came to various European countries. So, but probably the solution is God loves you, and another one is make a small step to make him Muslim, him or her, a friend. Views.
Well, it's fascinating because it means that our fear can transform them towards the one who we are afraid of. So it's our fear is transforming, not the idea which is inside of the head of those who are coming to Europe, for example. So it's well, it's very deep, really.
I think that the effort, we mentioned it during the discussion before, that labeling someone does not help. And putting them in categories and boxes doesn't help them to blend at all. So we will be feeding the monsters by ourselves when we label them as monsters. But when I choose to look at the other person and I choose to see the human side in him, I choose to reenact, to treat him or to treat her as a human being, then there might be a chance, there might be a solution. And as Marcin was saying, it should be taken case by case. Integration policies and assimilation, and it does not, this is theory. It's another trying to force an ideology over someone, over a group of people who had to migrate. And I don't think Muslims, when they came to Europe lately, during these generations, they came to invade. They did not come in war. They escaped their countries. But the only answer they had to what they are facing and difficulties here is to return back to the roots. And it's a big dilemma that you want to return back to the roots as ideology in a foreign country when you were not able to embrace them in your home country.
Thank you.
But only because you were labeled.
So now we have a few minutes still. So maybe you have some questions to ask towards our experts, our guests. So please, if you would like to ask about something, we have few minutes to do it. If not, I have also one question, but for now I'd like to give the floor to you. So please feel free and ask if you want.
Bo obecnie na przykład w polskich mediach jest bardzo popularny temat kryzysu demograficznego i też często w kontekście islamu się pojawia takie idee, że po prostu, że ze względu na to, że muzułmanie mają wyższą dzietność, to tak nas dominują demograficznie. A chciałbym po prostu zapytać, jak to jest w praktyce, bo jak się tak patrzy też na statystyki nawet muzułmańskich krajów, to nieraz wcale nie jest tak super, bardzo lepiej po prostu niż u nas. W związku z tym, jak to jest tak jakby w praktyce i czy na przykład ze względu też na spadek tej dzietności też również tam, czy na przykład jak znikną te źródła po prostu tych migrantów, czy to na przykład ten problem się tak jakby sam rozwiąże, bo nie będzie grup, które by mogły migrować.
In English, okay. So the question was about, the rate of fertility. The rate of fertility. So there is one quite interesting book by Emmanuel Todd, a French demographer. And so the title of this book is called Divergence of Civilizations. And so the point is that in many Muslim countries, so we observe the same tendencies that are in European countries. I mean, the fertility is under 2 point. I mean, this is 1,7, for instance. So this is the case of Tunisia, for instance, and other countries. But of course, in various Muslim countries, the rate of fertility is very high. This is the case of Afghanistan, for instance, and also Pakistan. So we observe this. But the most important factor that changed the society is the percentage of people who are, the rate of scholarity. The rate of scholarity, 50% of scholarity of population, especially men population, it is something that already occurred 50 or 70 years ago in various countries. But the most important aspect is the rate of scholarity among women. So this is important. This is the rate. This level, more than 50% of educated women in society has important consequences for society in various aspects. One of them is lowering and decrease of the rate of fertility. So this is something that we observe also in some countries. Probably Lebanon would be interesting question.
I can say something about Lebanon. We face it. The number of women who are educated and in the work field as employment rate is higher than the men, unfortunately. But the thing is, when you are in a country like ours and you want to be open to the West and you start embracing ideologies from the West, that not all of them are Christian ideologies. They are simply just ideas of like the carbon print, the level of life. So you will see the fertility rate, the birth rate dropping in Christian communities because we are not like the Muslims. We don't bring so many children to the world. It's so uncool. This is a wrong understanding of Christianity, that Christians are cooler than Muslims. This is why they don't bring. They chose, and they are still choosing the level of life, a better level of life than bringing children to the world. Because family is not number one anymore. It's the person. The mother and the father will choose their own comfort over the family. So having one child is much more comfortable than having two, and way more comfortable than having three. Of course, it's happening also in Muslim communities, but on a lower, less level. Because also the women and the men's like, but I will enjoy more trips to Europe. I will not have to cancel my plans for Bali. I will have to pay less tuition fees. It's not about if the Muslims will outnumber or already outnumbered the Christians in Lebanon, it is because of this way of thinking. That I don't want to stay in the country because I don't want to mix with the Muslims. I will go to Europe. But Europe is not as Christian as you think. This is one thing. Or if I stay in the country, I will have just one child because I'd rather have one child educated in this fancy school than having a family. because having a bigger family will require me to compromise on a certain level of luxury in my life. And we've seen that. We've seen households without tiles, but choosing to have the latest television, the biggest screen you can ever fit in a household. So a TV unit won over the family. And it's happening in the Muslim families, not just because the women are more educated, but because selfishness is growing. I choose myself. That's it. And I choose, instead of relying, as in our countries, it was the custom among Christians and Muslims to rely on the bigger family to help us with the children. I don't want anyone to help me with the children. If I need my mother or my sister or my mother-in-law or any other member of the family to help me raise my child, I'd rather not have a child. I'll choose myself. And it's happening in both communities, unfortunately. I'll choose myself. I'll choose to have just one child to post on social media, the pictures of the perfect family and the vacations and the leisure activities, rather than to have to compromise on any of this.
But of course, the rate of the fertility rate is bigger in Muslim communities. But so please, when we think about migration, so it's good to have a bigger picture, the whole picture. And so what is fascinating in the data that so we observe across Europe growing number of Hindu people. Hindu. So this is. In the decade between 2010 and 2020, so we experience a huge increase of people from Hindu. This is still, it's a very small population across Europe. It's just 2 million. But so the rate of increase is 30% point. So it's a very, very huge increase. But so they also constitute the bigger family, not nuclear families.
Czy jakieś pytanie jeszcze?
I have a question about conversions in Lebanon. Is it popular and common in Lebanon? And which one is more common, conversion to Islam or conversion to Christianity?
There are no clear numbers in Lebanon about that, but we can say that it can go both ways. We have people converting to Christianity, not in big numbers, but of course the freedom that is offered in Lebanon to convert makes it easier for people. Not all people will change on public records, but they will keep their baptism private, but they will choose to be baptized in one church or another, and they can keep it as confidential to themselves without unveiling it. We have situations where people will convert to Islam. Most in the cases, people convert to Islam because they have their judgments and the issues with the church. For example, if someone doesn't want to go through marriage annulment, he will choose to convert to Islam to marry a second wife because it's always the easier solution. The problem is with the children that they will be automatically registered as Muslim consequently in Lebanon. And there will be also problems, conflicts with inheritance if he passes away. But there are legal solutions for that. No one wants to or will try to give answers in Lebanon about it because of the sensibility of the issue and to keep the privacy of the people as well. So such matters usually go under the radar, and we can say it's not a common thing. The comparison is with other Arab countries where you cannot do that. It goes secretive, like baptism is not declared. It will go very private, very confidential, and maybe sometimes abroad, not in the country. So yes, it's not as public as Europe.
I wonder what is the source of the way how Muslims treat Christians? You mentioned that they treat them as an elite, someone better, or there is such a tendency that Christian people are maybe better. I wonder if the source is in the past, in the colonial past, or the state now is as it is, that the, for example, Christian people live in a better condition, or there is something, there is the arguments which make these people, I mean Muslim, think about Christians as a better people or living better.
You're asking about this report. Yeah, this is the book that was published in 2016. It's rather new book. So the conclusion is that people, generally speaking, in France, so they are afraid of hiring or employing people of Muslim descent. So this is the fear. I mean, irrational fear that people from Muslim country, that Muslim people. That might be dangerous in one or another place. So this is rather irrational. But so the conclusion is that we're supposed to be rational, but so we behave in irrational way sometimes. But so fear. Sometimes it's good that we feel fear, but sometimes so our fears are irrational. So this is exactly the point when I found in this report, but it's completely new. But so of course we made such study also in Poland. So some years ago, this was a report. Based on interviews with people from various European countries, including also Europe, was prepared. It was about the fear of Muslim people. And so the rate of people who in Poland, the rate of people that express their fearing of Muslim threat, it was very high, and it is. I was surprised reading such report. Why? Because so in Poland we have just very small Muslim community. So community that is divided. We have also Tatar community. So they are integrated. That we Polish people, in fact. So this was fascinating. That we should detect also our fears, our phobias, also Polish phobias. So this is something that we may do working and living here. I mean, detect such irrational feelings and fears.
Yes, I wonder if in Lebanon is something like this, because for me it's understandable that fear and a lack of knowledge is a cause. But if in Lebanon, where they live next to each other,
In Lebanon, it goes both ways. And I think Lebanon is a good example of if you want to bring the Muslim countries versus Europe or the majority of the Christian countries. If someone is converting to Christianity, then the Christians will make it like, oh, he just came to the better world now, like the gates of heaven are open. This is how the Christians might perceive some of them, but some of them will also have, like, he's baptized, okay, but just don't be on public records because this will change many things. But on the opposite side, if someone converts to Islam, the Muslim community will cheer him. You are blessed, now you are on the right way. So it's kind of the ego of the community at stake here. Each community will cheer that you are saved from the darkness and you just joined our elite club. It's not just the Christians who are using it, but also the Muslims. And you have also, as compared to the fear from hiring Muslims in Europe, we know, for example, in Lebanon, you have, same as in other countries, you have Christians who would be struggling to find jobs in mostly predominant Muslim communities because out of religious or because out of phobias or judgments, they'll rather hire a Muslim than hire a Christian because of the false perceptions, because of the fear of the other, let's say, the many assumptions they made over the years about those evil ones. We don't know them. And you can see in Lebanon that in the areas where you have Christians and Muslims mixing together, the people are different from those living in, the mentality is different from those who live in just a pure Muslim or pure Christian areas. Their way of interacting is different, their way of behaving is different, their understanding and perception of what's going on in the country is much different.
Cieszę się bardzo, że mieliśmy okazję porozmawiania. Pewnie jeszcze wiele tematów by się otworzyło. Ja mam sam w głowie wiele takich jeszcze pytań niepostawionych, ale myślę, że jeśli jest jakiś niedosyt, to dobrze. Może będzie okazja, żeby jeszcze raz kiedyś spotkać się i rozwinąć ten temat o wiele innych aspektów, które on gdzieś z sobą jeszcze łączy, czy które się w nim mieszczą. Także dziękuję bardzo Państwu za obecność, za ten czas, który razem spędziliśmy. Thank you, Sumar, thank you, Marcin, for your presence, for this debate, for this discussion, for all this idea that you share with us. For me, it was very precious, and I have still a lot of ideas and questions. But maybe I hope that there will be some occasion, opportunity to meet, maybe once more again, and to continue in somehow this debate and to have a lot of other questions concerning this theme of relation between Christianity and Islam. So thank you once more. Thank you very much. I Państwu życzę również dobrego czasu, dobrego wieczoru. No i do zobaczenia następnym razem, mam nadzieję. Dziękuję też bardzo w imieniu Instytutu Dialogu Międzykulturowego, który odpowiada za organizację tych naszych debat, tych dziedzińców Pogan. Bardzo mam nadzieję, że to będzie się mogło też kontynuować i że będziemy się jeszcze spotykać przy okazji innych tematów. No i wszystkim bardzo serdecznie w imieniu Instytutu i swoim i moich gości dzisiaj życzę dobrego, błogosławionego czasu świąt, szczęśliwego nowego roku. Oby był jak najlepszy, jakbyśmy się w dobrej formie spotkali właśnie w przyszłym roku. Dziękuję bardzo. Thank you once more.